The silent fire. The first colony died in silence. No warning. No distress signal. No final transmission. One moment, Colony 7 existed, 3 million souls living beneath twin suns on a world they had shaped from raw stone and thin air. The next moment, nothing remained but ash and twisted metal cooling under alien stars. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, staring at the empty space where a world should be. Her hands gripped the rail until her knuckles turned white. Behind her, the crew worked in shocked silence, checking sensors again and again, hoping the readings were wrong. They were not wrong. Captain. The voice of her sensor officer barely rose above a whisper. I'm picking up residual heat signatures. Massive ones. They're moving. Elena's blood went cold. Moving where? Toward Colony 8. She activated the emergency channel immediately. This is Captain Voss of the Horizon's Edge to all Council vessels. Colony 7 is gone. Repeat, Colony 7 is gone. Unknown hostile force moving toward Colony 8. All available ships, converge on. The transmission died. Every screen on the bridge went dark. Emergency lights flickered. Then, through the main viewport, Elena saw something that would haunt her forever. A shadow moved through space itself. Not a ship. Not a fleet. A shape, impossibly huge, walking through the void as if it were solid ground. It had the form of a giant, each step crossing distances that should have been impossible. Fire trailed from its shoulders like a cloak. Its eyes burned with light that seemed to come from another universe. Elena watched it reach Colony 8. The colony's orbital defense platforms opened fire immediately. Rail guns that could punch through battleship armor. Plasma cannons hot enough to melt asteroids. Missiles carrying warheads that could crack moons. The giant walked through it all. Fire splashed across its chest like water. Explosions burst against its legs and faded. It raised one massive arm and brought it down on the colony's main city. Buildings that had stood for 2 centuries collapsed like children's toys. Millions died in that single strike. Then the giant kept walking. By the time the Human Council convened in emergency session, 3 more colonies had fallen. The pattern was always the same. Giants appeared. Defenses failed. Cities burned. Survivors spoke of impossible strength, of weapons that couldn't scratch the enemy's skin, of evacuation ships crushed before they could reach orbit. Chairman Marcus Webb looked around the council chamber at faces filled with fear. Good. Fear was honest. Fear meant people understood how close humanity stood to extinction. Options, he said. We have none. Admiral Chen spoke quietly, but her words cut through the room like a blade. Every weapon we have fails. Every defense we mount collapses. We cannot evacuate fast enough. We cannot fight back. If these things reach our core worlds, human civilization ends. Silence filled the chamber. Then a voice spoke from the back. There is one option. Everyone turned. Dr. Sarah Cross stood beside a data terminal, her fingers moving across holographic displays. She was old, ancient by military standards, but her eyes burned with the intensity of someone who had seen terrible things and survived them. What option? Webb demanded. The Titan program. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Webb felt his chest tighten. The Titan program was buried 300 years ago. Erased from every official record. Everyone involved swore oaths of silence unto death. I remember, Sarah said softly. I was there when we sealed them away. I helped design the vaults that would keep them sleeping forever. Then you know why we can never wake them. I know why we were afraid to wake them. I also know what they were built to do. Sarah pulled up an image on the main display. A humanoid shape, massive beyond comprehension, standing alone against a sky filled with fire. They were built to answer one question: What happens when humanity faces enemies we cannot defeat with normal weapons? What happens when monsters come for our children? They're too dangerous, Webb said. The last time the Titans woke. The last time the Titans woke, they saved humanity from extinction. Yes, there was destruction. Yes, we lost control. Yes, we swore never to use them again. Sarah's voice grew harder. But we are not talking about a war crime or a political scandal or a disaster we might avoid. We are talking about the complete and total annihilation of our species. Every man, woman, and child who draws breath under human suns will die unless we act. Webb looked at Admiral Chen. She nodded slowly. He looked at the other council members. One by one, they gave the same terrible answer. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was no longer the man who had entered this chamber. He was the man who would either save humanity or doom it forever. Wake the Titans. Deep beneath Europa's frozen surface, in a vault buried under 10 kilometers of ice, something stirred. Power cells that had slept for centuries began to glow. Coolant systems activated. Neural networks that had been dormant since before Earth's current nations existed flickered to life. Titan 1 opened its eyes. They blazed like newborn stars, blue fire that had not touched the universe in 300 years. The massive war machine rose from its cradle, ice cracking and falling from its shoulders like snow from a mountain. It stood 100 meters tall. Its armor was forged from alloys humanity had lost the knowledge to recreate. Its weapons could reshape continents. And humanity had built not 1, but 12. The age of monsters had begun. But the age of Titans had returned. Giants walk. The enemy reached Colony 12 on the 3rd day of the 5th week. This time, humanity was ready. The colony's governor had ordered a full evacuation the moment the council broadcast went out. Ships lifted from every spaceport, carrying families and children toward the inner worlds. Military vessels formed defensive lines in high orbit. Marines dug into positions on the ground, knowing their weapons were useless but refusing to run. Then the giant appeared. It came from nowhere, stepping through space as if reality meant nothing. This one was different from the others, taller, with armor that glowed like molten metal. Its face was a featureless mask. Its hands could have held entire city blocks. Fire trailed from its body like a living thing. The evacuation fleet scattered. Some ships made it to jump distance. Others were caught by the giant's reaching hand and crushed like insects. On the ground, Lieutenant James Rodriguez watched through his rifle scope as the giant took its first step onto Colony 12's surface. The impact registered on seismic sensors as a magnitude 6 earthquake. Buildings 2 kilometers away collapsed from the shockwave alone. All units, fall back to secondary positions, his commander ordered over the calm. The man's voice shook. We can't stop this thing, but we can buy time for the civilians still. The transmission cut off as the giant's foot came down on the command bunker. James ran. His squad followed. Behind them, the giant walked through the colony's capital city like a man walking through tall grass. Skyscrapers crumbled. Defensive turrets fired until their barrels melted, achieving nothing. The giant didn't even seem to notice. Then the ocean exploded. James hit the ground as a shockwave rolled across the city. Water rose into the sky in a column 10 kilometers wide. Something was emerging from the sea, something massive enough to displace billions of tons of water. Titan 1 stepped onto the beach. James had seen the emergency broadcasts. He knew the Titans were waking. But nothing had prepared him for the reality of it. The Titan was a humanoid war machine that stood eye to eye with the alien giant. Its armor was midnight blue, etched with patterns that glowed like circuit paths. Its face held 2 burning eyes and nothing else. In its right hand, it carried a blade the size of a battleship. The alien giant stopped walking. For the first time, it turned its attention toward something other than helpless humans. The two titans stared at each other across 5 kilometers of burning city. Then they charged. The impact shook the planet. James felt his teeth rattle in his skull. The titan's blade met the giant's arm with a sound like a nuclear detonation. The alien giant staggered. The titan pressed forward, moving with impossible speed for something so large. Its blade cut through the air in an arc of blue fire. The alien giant caught the blade with both hands. Energy crackled between them, two forces that should not exist in the same universe trying to destroy each other. The ground beneath them fractured. Windows shattered for kilometers in every direction. James watched as Titan 1 released its blade with one hand and drove its fist into the giant's face. The blow created a sonic boom that knocked him flat. When he looked up, the alien giant was falling backward. It hit the ground hard enough to create a crater. Buildings collapsed into the depression. The Titan didn't wait. It raised its blade high and brought it down with both hands. The alien giant's scream was not a sound any living thing should make. It was too loud, too deep, vibrating in frequencies that made James's bones hurt. The giant thrashed. Fire burst from the wound in its chest, not red fire, but something darker, something that seemed to drink light instead of creating it. Titan 1 struck again. And again. And again. By the 5th strike, the giant stopped moving. By the 7th strike, it began to dissolve, its body breaking apart into ash and shadows that scattered on the wind. Titan 1 stood alone in the center of a destroyed city, its blade still burning with blue fire. Then it turned its head and looked directly at James. He felt those eyes on him. Not human eyes. Not machine eyes. Something else. Something that had been built to protect humanity but had never been human itself. The Titan turned away and walked back into the ocean. Within moments, only waves remained. Across human space, more Titans woke. Titan 3 rose from a vault buried in the Martian desert, its armor red as rust and twice as hard. Titan 5 emerged from an asteroid hidden in the belt, its body built for space combat, covered in weapons that had no names in any modern language. Titan 8 climbed from a vault at the bottom of Earth's deepest ocean trench, water streaming from its shoulders like tears. Each time a giant appeared, a Titan answered. Colony 15, Titan 2 arrived before the giant could reach the population centers. The battle lasted 6 hours. The giant fell. The colony survived. Colony 9, Titan 4 fought 3 giants at once in the ruins of an industrial zone. It destroyed 2 and drove the 3rd back into whatever darkness they came from. Colony 23, Titan 7 held the line alone for 2 days while evacuation ships carried away 8 million people. When the last ship jumped to safety, the Titan collapsed from accumulated damage. Engineers found it 3 days later, still functional, already repairing itself. Humanity began to hope again. But in the council chambers, Dr. Sarah Cross studied the data and felt cold certainty settle into her bones. She had seen the classified reports. She knew what the giants were. She knew where they came from. And she knew the enemy had only sent scouts. The real invasion was still coming. Chairman Webb found her staring at star charts at 3 in the morning. "How bad?" he asked. Sarah didn't look away from the display. "The giants were fighting our soldiers. Infantry. The Titans are winning because they're fighting other Titans." She finally turned to face him. "But intelligence suggests the enemy has something else. Something bigger. Fleet killers. World breakers. How much bigger?" Sarah pulled up an image. Webb felt his stomach drop. "That's impossible," he whispered. "We thought giants that walked through fire were impossible too." Sarah's voice was steady but her hands shook. "The enemy is coming, Marcus. All of them. And I don't know if 12 Titans will be enough." Webb looked at the image again. A shape that dwarfed even the Titans. Something that could stand on a planet and reach orbit with its hands. "How long do we have?" Days. Maybe a week. Webb activated his command codes. Wake all remaining Titans. Every single one. I don't care what vaults they're in or what oaths we swore. He looked at Sarah. If humanity is going to die, it will die fighting. Sarah nodded. The Titans were built for this. Built to answer the question we never wanted to ask. What question? What happens when gods come to kill us? Sarah's eyes reflected the star charts, showing the advancing enemy fleet. We built our own gods to kill them back. In vaults across human space, the final Titans began to wake. The real war was about to begin. When gods collide. The enemy fleet arrived on the seventh day. Every telescope in human space turned toward the same point in the void. Every sensor array recorded the same impossible readings. Every military analyst came to the same conclusion: humanity was looking at its extinction. The fleet numbered in the thousands. Ships the size of moons. Carriers that could deploy giants by the hundred. And at the center, moving with terrible purpose, the thing Sarah Cross had warned about. They called it the Leviathan. It was not a ship. It was not a station. It was a Titan that made other Titans look like toys. 5 kilometers tall, maybe more, the sensors couldn't agree on its exact dimensions because reality seemed to bend around it. Its body was black as the void between stars, covered in armor that drank light and gave nothing back. Its eyes burned with the same dark fire the giants used. Its hands were large enough to hold cities. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, humanity's largest battleship, and felt utterly helpless. How do you fight that? You don't, said the tactical officer. You evacuate. You run. You hope some of us survive. But Chen was looking at a different display. One showing 12 blue markers scattered across human space. 12 Titans, all active, all moving toward intercept vectors. They're not running, she said quietly. Titan 1 met the fleet first. It stood in the void between stars, alone against thousands. The enemy giants deployed from their carriers like a swarm, each one powerful enough to destroy worlds. They surrounded Titan 1 in a sphere of burning warriors. The Titan's blade ignited. Blue fire met dark across 1,000 kilometers of space. The battle was too vast for human eyes to follow. Energy weapons carved through the void. Matter itself screamed under the forces being unleashed. Giants fell, their bodies dissolving into nothing. But more came. Always more. Titan 1 fought like something built by a species that refused to die quietly. It moved through the swarm, blade cutting, fist striking, every movement precise despite the chaos. 5 giants fell. Then 10. Then 20. But even Titans can be overwhelmed. A giant's fist caught Titan 1 in the chest, denting armor that was supposed to be indestructible. Another struck from behind. A third wrapped its arms around the Titan's legs. They dragged it down through the swarm like sharks pulling prey into deep water. Then Titan 2 arrived. Then Titan 3. Then all of them. 12 Titans against a fleet of thousands. It should have been suicide. It should have been a massacre. It was something else entirely. Lieutenant James Rodriguez watched from the observation deck of an evacuation carrier. Behind him, refugees from 6 colonies pressed against the windows, silent as death. In front of him, gods went to war. The Titans fought like humanity itself, outnumbered, outgunned, refusing to break. Titan 4 wielded twin blades that carved through enemy formations. Titan 7's armor bristled with weapons that fired non-stop, each shot powerful enough to crack a moon. Titan 9 moved like a dancer, impossible grace in a body built for war. But the enemy kept coming. They can't win, someone whispered behind James. There's too many. James wanted to argue. He wanted to believe. But he could see the truth playing out across the void. For every giant that fell, 3 more took its place. The Titans were taking damage now, serious damage. Titan V's left arm hung useless. Titan 8's armor glowed red with heat. Titan 1 bled something that looked like liquid light. Then the Leviathan moved. It walked through its own fleet as if the ships were mist. Giants scattered before it. Even the Titans seemed to hesitate as that massive shape approached. The Leviathan raised one hand. Space itself bent. Titan 12, the newest to wake, was caught in the gravity distortion. James watched in horror as the Titan was crushed, not destroyed, but compressed, folded in on itself by forces that shouldn't exist. In seconds, a war machine that had stood 100 meters tall was reduced to a ball of twisted metal no larger than a house. The Leviathan discarded it with a flick of its fingers. "Oh God," someone said. "Oh God, they're going to lose." But James was watching something else. The remaining 11 Titans were moving. Not retreating. Not scattering. They were forming up. Admiral Chen saw it on her tactical display. All 11 Titans moving into formation, arranging themselves into a pattern she didn't recognize. What are they doing? Dr. Sarah Cross had appeared on her bridge without Chen noticing. The old woman stood perfectly still, her face pale. Something we never wanted them to do. Something we hoped they'd never need to do. What? The Titans aren't just weapons, Admiral. They're not just machines. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. They're a system. And you're about to see what that system was designed for. The 11 Titans touched hands. Light erupted from the contact points, blue fire that spread across their bodies, linking them together. Energy flowed between them, faster and faster, building to something that made Chen's instruments scream warnings. They're going to overload, her engineer shouted. The power readings are. The light became blinding. When it faded, one Titan remained. But it was not any of the 11 that had been there moments before. It was all of them. Combined. Merged. Standing taller than the Leviathan, its armor a fusion of every color the individual Titans had carried, its eyes burning with the light of 11 suns. The Mega-Titan raised its blade. The weapon stretched across space, kilometers long, blazing with power that made nearby stars look dim. The Leviathan charged. The collision was something humanity would record in every history book for the rest of time. Two forces that should not exist, meeting in a space that could barely contain them. The shockwave destroyed 3 enemy carriers just from proximity. The light was visible from Earth, a new star born and dying in the span of heartbeats. The Mega-Titan's blade cut through the Leviathan's armor. The enemy god screamed. It was a sound that traveled through space despite the vacuum, heard in every human mind at once, rage and pain and something else, something that might have been fear. The Leviathan struck back. Its fist caught the Mega-Titan in the chest hard enough to create a black hole for half a second before reality snapped back. The Mega-Titan staggered. Cracks appeared in its armor, spreading like lightning. But it didn't fall. It drove its blade deeper. The Leviathan thrashed. Dark fire erupted from the wound, spreading across its body like infection. It grabbed the Mega-Titan with both hands, trying to crush it, trying to tear it apart. The Mega-Titan held firm. Its free hand came up, fingers spread. Energy gathered in its palm, blue and brilliant and absolutely final. No, Sarah whispered. If they fire that. The Mega-Titan fired. The blast was not a weapon. It was an event. It was physics giving up and apologizing. It was the universe deciding that this particular space no longer needed to exist. The Leviathan dissolved. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Simply ceased to be, every atom scattered across dimensions that had no names. The enemy fleet broke. For the first time since the war began, the giants retreated. Their carriers turned away from human space. Within hours, they were gone, fleeing back to whatever darkness had spawned them. The Megatitan stood alone in the void, surrounded by debris and dead stars. Then the light that held it together began to fade. The merged form broke apart, splitting back into 11 separate titans. They drifted in space, damaged beyond anything their designers had thought possible, but functional. Still protecting. Still ready. Still refusing to fall. James Rodriguez found himself crying without knowing when it started. Around him, the refugees were crying too. Some from relief. Some from horror at what they'd witnessed. Some simply because they were alive. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Chen let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Get medical teams to those titans. Repair crews. Everything we have. Admiral, her communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission. From Titan 1. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was not human. It was too deep, resonating in frequencies that hurt to hear. But the words were clear. Colonies secure. Enemy retreating. Humanity safe. A pause. We stand ready. Chen felt something break inside her, not from despair, but from the weight of gratitude she could never properly express. Thank you, she said, knowing it wasn't enough. Thank you for saving us. No response came. The Titans were already moving back to their positions, spreading out across human space, standing guard over worlds they had died and been reborn to protect. In the council chambers, Chairman Webb stood before a display showing casualty reports. Millions dead. Entire colonies damaged or destroyed. The cost had been terrible. But humanity endured. Dr. Sarah Cross stood beside him. The enemy will come back, she said. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not for years. But they'll come. I know. Webb looked at the blue markers on the display, showing 11 Titans on patrol. And we'll be ready. The Titans will be ready. They were built for one war we couldn't remember, Sarah said quietly. Now they've fought another. How many more times can we ask them to save us? As many times as we must. Webb turned to face her. That's what it means to survive. You use every tool. You fight every battle. You never surrender. Sarah nodded slowly. The enemy learned something today. What's that? That humanity doesn't just build weapons. Sarah smiled, and there was pride in it, fierce and unbreakable. We build hope. We build determination. We build giants that refuse to fall. She gestured to the display, to the Titans standing guard across human space. When fire consumed the colonies, we answered with thunder. When gods came to kill us, we built gods to kill them back. She looked at Webb with eyes that had seen 3 centuries of human stubbornness. That's the message we sent to the galaxy today. That's what every species out there needs to understand. What message? That humanity doesn't break. We bend, we adapt, we build, we fight. Sarah's voice grew stronger. And when you come for our children, when you burn our worlds, when you think you've won, that's when our Titans wake up. Webb looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the enemy was licking its wounds. Somewhere out there, other threats lurked. But here, in human space, 12 Titans stood watch. And they would never fall.